Hey Larry, so I'm going to give you some comments on your phase three. I see that you uploaded two different style guides for the two different logo variations, so I'll go through both of them. The first thing that I noticed on both of the style guides that you submitted is you are missing some of the requirements for the style guide. So the style guide is for the client, basically guidelines for them to be able to look at the style guide and figure out how to use the logo and what logo variations to use in different situations. So if you look at the project specs, there are some things that were required for the style guide that were not included in the style guides that you submitted. One of those being the typography section. So what I wanted for the type was you're going to show the client basically what this type is here, their main typeface that they are using in the logo itself, so that they know what typeface to use for that officially. And also you usually want to select a body copy typeface, which would be what the client would use for large body type or large selections of types, such as if they were doing a promotional package or something like that. All the paragraphs you would want written in a simplified font, so that you don't have like this really stylized font for people to try and read, because that it's hard on the eyes if you have large paragraphs that are written in stylized font. So you want a more simplified font. So you're missing that information there. So you're gonna you'll see that there's gonna be some points docked for that, unfortunately. The other thing that is missing is you have most of the logo variations I want to see, but if you look at the project specs again, I wanted to see the black, or I'll just show you an example actually to make it easier. This is another student that was in your class this month, so you weren't required to do the cover sheet. He went ahead and did the cover sheet, so don't worry about, you're not going to lose points for having a cover sheet or not. As far as the variations, this is what I had asked for. So with the black and white logo, you need to show it on a white background, on a black background, and on a blue background. Or sorry, not a blue background, a color of your choice basically. So white, black, and colored background. And then again with the colored logo, you're going to show it on a white background, a black background, and a colored background. Now you can select any colored background that you want, but that colored background that you select would be an official color that you're basically saying the client can use as part of their identity. Now you want to restrict this identity, because if you have a very concise identity and you limit the options that you give your client because you specifically chose these, then that's going to be more effective to them, because they're going to have a very clear, concise, targeted message with their identity and all the elements that they create for their marketing and everything. So one thing that I noticed with your logos is that you have different colored variations. Now that can be a good thing if you do the marketing correctly, you know, like MTV and Google, of course, they have different variations of their logo that they use all the time. Well, Google has, they always use the same colors in their logo, but they change it up a little bit. So that's called modularity, where the logo itself can be changed to be applied to different situations. Now with your company, I don't know if that modularity is the best option, because you want to make sure that the colors that you choose are consistent. So I like seeing the different variations to try and figure out which one works best, but you would want to really select one variation, one color palette, so that people always see the same color. Because if you keep changing it up, it can get a little bit confusing for the client, or not the client, for the audience, when they see the logo in several different colors all the time. So it's going to kind of throw them off, as opposed to having a consistent color palette. As far as the colors go, I think that since it is golf, you know, and you think of green grass and everything, and the big play fields and everything, or the green, I think that the green would work the best for your color palette. The red, possibly, but I don't think it works as well as the green. And the blue, I don't really think would be a good option for what your company does. So I would go with the green. I would say this would be your best bet here for this one, and for both of these, really. I think the green is the best option. As far as the 54 one, I think that when you have it in color and you have the two contrasting colors, then I think that it helps the numbers pop out. Now, when you have it in the black and white, it's a little bit more challenging, and I can definitely see the face now, especially in this variation here. Oh, and it looks like the ball kind of rolled off there. I don't know what happened, but it looks like it needs to go back on the tee. So we'll look at this one here. on this variation here, you can see the numbers a little bit, but it becomes a little bit jumbled, where if somebody didn't know the company and they glanced at this, it might be a little bit difficult for them to discern what that is, if it's a shape or if it's the numbers themselves. So maybe move the T a little bit to the 4, so this part right here where the numbers are intersecting, which is going to tell people or visually indicate that the two shapes are the 5 and the 4. If you cover that up, then people might lose that imagery of figuring out, okay, this part here is a 5 and then this part here is 4. So if you move this over a little bit, then I think that will probably help a little bit so they can figure out the two numbers and be able to read it a little bit better. I think your font choice works really well. I think this variation is probably the best down here because I like on this gray color. I think that this works really well. As far as these here, oh, see, yeah, you have it moved over here. So I think that when it's over to the right side, that works well. As far as the logo goes, you'd want to be consistent though. So don't have it in two different positions on the different logos. You'd want to pick one specific variation of it and make sure that that's the version that is always used, because you don't want to have several different variations of the same logo. That's going to be too confusing to people, and you want to be very concise with your message. This new variation that you have, this actually isn't bad. I kind of like this one. I think that the 54 is definitely easier to read. I think that it would work better on a shirt. So yeah, I like this new variation that you did. I think that it has more potential probably than this one, and I think that the style of it with the kind of not curviness, but the flow of the 5 and the 4 works a little bit better than the straight edges and stuff. So this one I think has some good potential. If the class was another month longer, then I think you could develop this one and come up with a really, really good, perfect logo for that. Unfortunately, the class is over now. So I think that your logo has progressed well over the month. With doing numbers for a logo, it's always a challenge trying to figure out the best way to express them. So I definitely like this variation better than this one. I think you could push this one forward. And like I said, if this month was a little bit longer or another month for this class, then I think you could have done some really cool things with it.